We're at the Huntington Free Library in the East Bronx to learn about the history of the community and the beach clubs where we're going to do our live show for Word from the Curb. Talk about the history of the beach clubs along the water in Throgs Neck.
A lot of that history comes from like the German immigrants that came, in the 1860s and 70s, who first started populating like the South Bronx. They brought in the concept of outdoor entertainment, outdoor recreation, family recreation. And that came the breweries, and the beer gardens. These are old beer brewery bottles.
Wow.
Right? From the German immigration movement dating back, to the late 1850s into New York City. And when these Germans, immigrants, came to the city, they came to the Bronx, they started living in the South Bronx. We saw a lot of other waves come in, Italian immigration, a lot of Jews, more Jews from Eastern Europe, more of the need to have more space, have more affordable housing. And the Bronx always became, it was always like this incubator for the American dream, where people can experience that socioeconomic ladder they can climb. So you see a lot of these old families, German, Irish, Swedish families, that lived in places throughout the South Bronx, South, East, and West Bronx, started moving out into the environments, into the surrounding environments. Throgs Neck was one of those places. If you speak to people from the Bronx today, they still wouldn't consider the East Bronx as populated with high rises, with affordable housing versus the West Bronx.
How does the transportation situation affect everything here? Folks know there's not an easy way to get here on the train, and that affects who could live in a community.
By the time the east part of the Bronx was annexed, it was still farmland, right? It was Westchester County. When that finally became incorporated, there were people that did not want that city life.
These beach clubs that we talked about along the waterfront there, they've served these communities for a long time. And I think that there's a certain amount of angst about what happens if developers come in or this gets rezoned and we're not gonna be able to do this thing that we've had here for decades, if not centuries at this point.
When we look at those clubs, those should be preserved as historic landmarks. And I think throughout the city, there should always be a conversation about how can we work towards meeting the need of public housing, but at the same time preserving the historic fabric of a neighborhood.
Join us on September 30th at the American Turners Club in Throgs Neck to talk about affordability and other issues that are affecting this year's mayoral election.